today's lesson is 1.5. This is called Order of Operations. In our notes packet, we are on page number 14. You've probably heard of Order of Operations before. We often see the saying PEMDAS, which is listed out on the bottom left-hand side of your notes packet for today. We're going to start off our lesson just kind of refreshing and reviewing over this one. You may have heard the expression, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. You might have seen this one, purple elephants may destroy a school. A little bit more exciting than please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. But regardless of whichever expression or saying you see, PEMDAS is still going to follow the same order. So when we have an expression in math that has numbers and operations for us, and we're looking for a single numerical answer, we're going to follow this. We start off with parentheses or other grouping symbols. Other grouping symbols can also include these brackets, which are kind of what I call parentheses on steroids, because they're basically just like super duper parentheses. After we've completed everything inside parentheses, we are then going to complete anything that have exponents. We're going to talk a little bit about exponents today. Once those two are done, we're going to complete any multiplication and division. And you'll notice these two are on the same row together. If there is just multiplication and division left, or we have multiple instances of multiplication and division, we are going to actually work from left to right, just like as if you're reading a book. So it's the same kind of language as what you're used to. The final step that we have is completing any addition and subtraction, and notice these two are blocked together as well. So if we have multiple instances of this, or we have just addition and subtraction left, we're going to just work from left to right. So whatever we see kind of coming first here. So we're going to get started with a couple of simple examples that we have here. And this is on page 14 in your notes. And right here, because I don't have it on my paper, on my notes page in front of me, I'm going to just rewrite real quick up here. Parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract, just to kind of remind us. In my first example here, you notice I do have a set of parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. 16 plus 2, that's pretty easy. That's 18. What I need to do then is bring down everything else. And yes, you are going to have to write all these steps out. It's not too bad, I promise. So the next thing I see is addition or division. And by following my PEMDAS steps, I'm going to do the division part first. 18 divided by 3 is 6. And still bring down that 5 plus that's out front. And 5 plus 6 is just 11. You notice that I actually underline the parts of the problem that I'm solving. It's a really easy way for you to be able to show me your work, kind of moving forward here. So that's a really simple process. If you could do that, that would be super helpful as well. Looking at our next example here, I see parentheses, but I actually see parentheses inside. So anytime you have multiple sets of parentheses, you want to start at the very inside set first. And my first inside set is 10 minus 8. So 10 minus 8 is 2. Because it's a positive answer, I can drop those parentheses, but I still have 4 minus out front, and that's in parentheses, and then the 20 divided by goes out front of that. So I still have parentheses, so I'm going to keep working there. 4 minus 2 is 2, and now I have 20 divided by 2 is the last piece to my expression, and 20 divided by 2 is just 10. So this whole long big expression went down to just a single answer of 10. Over here, I noticed that I do have parentheses, and I noticed that I do have this kind of funny looking fraction thing here. This kind of, in math class, pretty much becomes a parentheses situation, because we are going to need to take care of that division before we do any of the other stuff with the problem here, okay? So we'll start off with this set of parentheses first. 8 plus 5 is 13 times, and then we're going to keep that in parentheses, 35 divided by 5 and plus 6. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this set of parentheses. 35 divided by 5 is 7. Bring down my 13, bring down my plus 6. Multiplication or addition, multiplication should come first here. And 13 times 7 is going to give me 91 plus 6, which is then going to give me a 97 as my final answer. Okay. On this next one over here, notice that we have another one of these division things. So we do want to take care of this piece first. But before we can actually divide 27 divided by, oh my, we actually need to take care of this bottom piece first. So I'm going to end up having 27 divided by 2 plus 3 is 5, 5 plus 4 is 9, plus 3. Which step here am I going to take care of first, the division or the addition? Following PEMDAS, you're going to take care of division. So 27 divided by 9 is 3, plus 3, and 3 plus 3 is 6. For our next part of our notes, we're going to talk a little bit about exponents. Just like when you were in elementary school, you learned that if you had 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, you could do that, or you could say 3 times 4 because you had 3 4 times. So you could actually just go ahead and multiply, and then that gave you 12, which was kind of a lot nicer than going, okay, 3 plus 3 is 6, 6 plus 3 is 9, 9 plus 3 is 12. This was much quicker, and you came to kind of understand this. So what would happen if we had 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3? Well, as a math person and as just a person in general, we don't want to have to write this out like this. So what we have instead are what we call exponents. So this expression, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 multiplied by itself 5 times would be a 3 to the 5th power. Okay? So exponents are just repeated multiplication. So multiplication was repeated addition, and exponents are repeated multiplication. So this gets a little funny with talking about negatives here. So we're going to take a look at a couple examples. I'm going to have you kind of like really look at them, and then I'm going to give you 2 practice problems to try that are not in your notes packets. So the first one we see just plain old 7 squared. This just means 7 times 7 because it's repeated multiplication, 7 times itself, and you're doing that 2 times. That gives you 49. Notice this 7 is in parentheses and it's squared. So that means write what you have 2 times. Still 7 times 7, which is still just 49. Notice that this one is a little bit different than this one because this one has a negative 7 in parentheses. So we're squaring this, so we're going to write it 2 times. Negative 7 times negative 7 with your integer rules is a positive 49. Okay, same answer so far. What's going on here? So this one is kind of weird. See this negative sign chilling out front? The negative does not necessarily attach to the 7. This is really kind of saying negative 1 times 7 squared. And if you follow PEMDAS here, you're going to do 7 squared first. 7 times 7 is 49. Negative 1 times 49. This is different because it's not a negative 7. It's the opposite of 7 squared is really what this says. Whereas this one right here says negative 7 squared. So this answer is actually a negative 49. So I'm going to give you 2 more examples here. First example, what would you get if we did negative 3 squared? What would be your answer? To do negative 3 squared, you're going to take what you have in parentheses and multiply it by itself. That will give you a positive 9. Next example, what would you get if you had negative 5 squared? This one's that scenario where we have negative 1 times 5 squared. It's kind of like invisible math. The 1's right there. So 5 squared is 25 times the negative 1, which will give you negative 25 for your answer. Down at the bottom here, we have a couple more complicated expressions. So we're going to go through these. I see parentheses in this first set, so I'm going to take care of this first part of parentheses. 6 minus 4 is 2. Notice it has an exponent. It's a positive 2, so it's not going to matter if I put it in parentheses or not. That's really a big difference if it's a negative. Times, I'm going to actually cheat and do 2 steps at the same time. 12 plus 3 is 15. So I have 2 squared plus 15. I still need to take care of exponents. 2 squared means do 2 times 2 because you multiply by itself 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4 times 15, and 4 times 15 is 60. In the next example, oh my, there's a lot going on here. I have a division problem, minus 5. So I have to clean up this division problem first. So I'm going to have the top is in parentheses, the bottom is exponents. So let's do the top first because it's parentheses. Negative 10 minus 6. Oh my goodness, subtracting integers. So first number stays, add the opposite. So on the top, we have a negative 16 over. We have negative 2 in parentheses squared minus 5. Let's take care of this negative 2 squared. The negative 2 is in parentheses, so remember that means I'm doing negative 2 times negative 2, which is going to give me a positive 4 minus 5. So division, subtraction. I'm going to do division first. So negative 16 divided by 4 is a negative 4 minus a 5. Subtracting integers, first number stays, addition, opposite. So 4 plus a negative 5, and I'm running out of space, that's going to give me a negative 9. Excuse me, a negative 4 plus a negative 5 will give me a negative 9. Oh my. Okay, so we're going to start with parentheses. We have brackets, which are parentheses. We have parentheses inside there, so let's go ahead and let's kind of color code here. So these go together, and these go together. And then let's use a different color. Those go together. And the purpose of this set right here is just to make sure that we know this is a negative and to kind of keep it separate from all the other numbers. So I don't really have to do anything with that set of purple. I do need to work all the way inside parentheses, closest inside first. So I'm going to do this 2 plus 4 first. That's going to give me 6. And I'm going to fill in with the rest of our colors. Minus a negative 2. And then negative 3, ooh, there's just parentheses there. That's kind of weird. Okay, and then I have parentheses, the green ones. And then I have 3 minus out front. And then close up with my brackets. Oh my goodness, and then out here, minus, and then a negative 3. Holy smokes, okay. So where are we going to go next? Inside the green set of parentheses, we have multiplication. And we have a subtraction problem. So I'm going to multiply first. Negative 3 times 6 is going to give me negative 18. And I'm going to actually do something here before I rewrite, because I'm not going to write minus a negative. Remember, this is a big old plus sign. So I'm going to put plus 2. And then those are still inside those green parentheses. But look, we're getting closer, because there's the bracket. And out here, I need to bring down my 3 minus. And then out front here, negative 3 minus. Getting closer. In this green set of parentheses, which is still inside, we have a negative 18 plus a 2. So that's going to give me a negative 16. Drop those parentheses now. Minus a 3. Ooh, I better put that negative 16 just in a little parentheses to keep it separate, though. Bracket. And then out front, negative 3 minus. All right, inside those blue ones now. Whew, last set. Minus a minus, big old plus sign. 3 plus 16 is going to be a 19. And I'm done with those blue ones now, so I just bring down the negative 3 minus out front, and I see a subtraction problem with integers. So keep, change, opposite, and a negative 3 and a negative 19. Integer rules gives me a negative 22. That's a doozy. That's a pretty big one. That would definitely be a challenge type problem. Not one that you would see on a test or a quiz moving forward, but that would definitely be a pretty complicated problem. So there you go. That's our lesson on order of operations. So keep in mind your PEMDAS process here. Parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract.